date keeper here. He'll be telling us what day it is very soon. Good morning and welcome. I'm Maufwe Yusuf.
We are live in Lagos, the city that never sleeps, the most expensive city. I could go on and on. I'm Kayode Okikilu.
Please don't just add those other appellations. Am I marking it? Today is July 24. Yes, drawing closer to the end of this month, the first month in the second half of the year 2023. Welcome to the program.
Indeed, welcome to the program. First month in the second half of the year 2023, and we're still having that conversation around infrastructure. Case in point, a resident of Kwara, one of those communities in Kwara State, talking about the fact that they can't get from their houses to where they're doing their businesses. They just sometimes when we talk about this matter of road infrastructure, one begins to wonder, when would this end? You find out. I'll give you a case in point. When we were in Lagos, when I was living in Lagos before we moved to, when I was living in the city that never sleeps, according to Kayode, before we moved to the city that sleeps, we were living around Ojota, and the road in front of our house was supposed. I mean, a philanthropist came up wanting to tar the road, so he went to the local government to get permission to work on the road, because anytime it rained, it was a terrible situation for residents of that area around Ojota. I think Juma to local also, yes. We went to the local government council, and on paper, in the local government, that road was tarred completely, and it got from the Ojota axis all the way from Ogudu Road across to the express. But guess what? Physically, at the end of that road where it's supposed to connect to the express, there's a church there, a Celestial Church, I think it's Celestial Church, yes, across the road, just beside the Chinese village.
Mm-hmm. Chinatown.
Chinatown. So it's blocked completely. So the road does not connect physically, but on paper, it's been tarred and it connects to the express. And then one wonders, on paper, it's tarred, but on ground, it's not.
There's even no such road.
So the question of who pays attention to these things again comes to mind. There is a Ministry of Works that's supposed to handle the roads, both at the state, local government, state and federal has departments of works that are supposed to ensure that these roads are there as they say they are. There are individuals or companies that were given contracts to see these roads established. But they all tend to walk away with these things. Back to Lagos-Ibadan Expressway that we've been talking about over and over and over again. That contract has been awarded over and over and over again. Eventually, it's being worked on, right? But imagine the pain that those living around or using that road have to go through, because now the population is more than it was when the road was first built. So in reconstructing that road, you're taking into cognizance the fact that someone's house is here. This is someone's gate. People have to gain access into their different communities. You have to take all of that into cognizance. So where are those people that took the earlier contracts? So this community in Kwara State is having these issues. One of the respondents I was interviewed talked about the fact that they had to go, for you to get from your house to where you get the products you're going to sell, or even to get the product from your farm to the market. You have to jump from one form of transport to the other, and sometimes they just abandon you on the road. When would this end? That's the only question I want to leave out there.
When will what end? The citizens clamoring for infrastructure, or government not building infrastructure?
Contractors not doing the jobs they're supposed to do, and then they seem to get away with it.
Okay, I don't know. I'm not able to say when that is going to end. But I think that it can end. It's not an impossible thing to end. It will end when citizens are concerned enough. It will end when government does what it's supposed to do, and people in government do what they are supposed to do, be it at the local level, be it at the state level, or be it at the federal government level. We are in the rainy season, and in recent times, the rains have been showing us the areas where we haven't done quite well. A number of states have been feeling the heat in recent times. We just mentioned Kwara. Just over the weekend, they showed, I think it was a road in Edo State where even it would seem a governor was stuck on that particular road. And the road was flooded as a result of the rains. And, the governor's convoy, too, was also stuck in it.
So he felt the pain.
Yes, firsthand this time around. I mean, it wasn't a question, and because there was also some traffic. So citizens had sufficient time to also take videos of that and, spread the news around. That CEO, I think even governor is stuck in this particular, melee, as the case might be. What do you say about road construction in Nigeria? About works that are said to have been done and maybe were never done. It's as a result of connivance. People who ought to be able to say, look, we thought this road had been approved for. We thought we saw a contractor move to site. How come nothing has happened? It's because everyone agrees on a conspiracy of silence. And for those who would say, oh, let us even summon the courage to be the one to shake the table, looking for another term, or, upset the apple cart, you might find, or maybe orange cart, as the case might be. You might find that people will say, now your papa business, is it your work? Is it think about your children, think about this. And, as a result of that, everybody gives up. Road is not done. People continue to suffer. And then maybe the worst case scenario is that we continue to rain invectives and curses and pray that one day God will visit those people with anger and justice. Okay, while I'm not going to, preempt what God will do or will not do, the truth of the matter is we have our role to play. If anything is going to happen, we have a role to play in terms of making sure that when work has been awarded, that people actually do get to do the work. You've just mentioned Kwara in Lagos, for instance. There's also local government roads. Lagos has gone one step further by creating LCDAs because, according to them, they want to get governance even closer to the people. And then you have to ask, how effective have these LCDAs been when you look at what is currently going on the roads when it rains in many communities in Lagos? A lot of people can't get out of their homes. In some places, roads are non-existent. I can give you lots of examples around Isolo, around if you go to many, many places. I'm sure that if we ask Lagosians right now to send us pictures of roads around their area as a result of the rains, I'm sure that our timelines will be flooded as a result of this. But over the weekend, I was in conversation with a friend, and she was just telling me, Malkwe, there is no road around where I live. She lives around the Solo area, going towards, where you're going towards Lagos, Festac, all of that area. In the inner communities, there are no roads in those places. And she says, oftentimes they will hear that this contracts have been awarded, or the LCDAs are the ones in charge of it, or the local governments are in charge of it. But these days, when there is lack of sincerity in terms of what needs to be done or what has to be done, those things are never done. And so you have to ask, how effective has it really been? If this is about getting governance closer to the people, have the people truly felt governance closer to them? Do they have roads? Do they have health centers? So while it is that, yes, there's a lot of talk around devolution of powers right now, the question will be, is it devolution of responsibility in such a way that federal government or state governments can say, oh, no, that's not under our purview. That's for the local government. That's for the LCDAs. The question is, who is ensuring or who is checking to ensure that, the people actually do get governance to them when they really need to? We can go on, but I'm sure that Ayo and Kayode can tell us more about the city that never sleeps and the state of infrastructure around their city. Gentlemen.
We feel targeted in Lagos. This is a national issue, and we need to treat it as such. But absolutely, you understand that with Lagos comes all of that attention naturally. And I just want to challenge Nigerians this morning, because I was thinking about the numbers. The total number of people in government is not up to 1% of our total population, because we naturally blame government, those in government, for not using resources well. I mean, there's that thing they call the contract economy, contract scam. Some people just by contracts alone have become millionaires or billionaires in Nigeria. And I mean, It's no-brainer. They do not use the funds meant to be used for infrastructure the right way. Instead, they divert it to private pockets, their pockets, build businesses and all of that. They build their alternative economy. So, yes, that is a given. We understand that. But I just want to challenge Nigerians this morning. I mean, look around you today. Take note of, bad portions of roads or infrastructure, essentially, around you. It might be in your area of residence. It could be around where you work. Take a note of them and just have a list, and then we can begin to eliminate who is meant to be responsible for this. Is it the local government? You can put it, I know it's painstaking. I know the average citizen does not really take time to do that because essentially we've given that responsibility to government. But seeing that government has failed time and again, we need to take back our nation. So do that list. And I want to ask you a question. Would it be difficult for you as a Nigerian to approach the closest government to you and say, these roads are not fixed? If you're scared to go alone, how about you go in group and say, this, they're not done and they are meant to be done. I pay my taxes. How can we get it done? Or at least why is it not being done and how should we get it done? I don't know, is that really hard to ask for as a citizen or hard to do as a citizen until we get to that point when we realize that collectively Nigerians are more than those in governance and we do not have any excuse to be where we're at today, then I think we can begin to move as a nation. I am not excusing the corrupt people in government, but I'm saying that we have much more powers as people.
I'm with you on that, Kayode. And I'll take it further. If you know the house of your local government chairman, go there, knock on his door, show him the road. It's as simple as that. It's something that I have done personally, and I got results. Hey, I even asked him for something that wasn't in his power. But as far as I'm concerned, he's responsible for NEPA because he's the only government closest to me. And he has access to all the uplines. He has access to the governor, who has access to the president or whoever needs to get anything done. So take the issues directly to their doors. Malcolm mentioned the issue of what we as a people ought to do ourselves. And you talked about Lagos infrastructure. Yes, Eco Bridge here is going to be closed for 40 days. Guess what? That road was made in 1975. What kind or quantum of maintenance has it gotten? It goes back to one thing that we've talked about over and over again. What happened in Kwara is happened in various parts of Nigeria, happened in Edo State. And that is the job of maintenance, okay? Now, who is responsible for ensuring not just the building or provision of these infrastructure, but to ensure that they are maintained? What's the maintenance schedule for Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, for instance? What's the maintenance schedule for the second Niger Bridge? How frequently should anyone go there and say, okay, this portion is bad, let's do something about it? Every 1 or 2 years, every 3 years, every 4 years, every 1 week or 1 month? If we do not have that, we're going to come back here in another 10 or 20 years and start another contract for any of this infrastructure. But the one that touches me the most this morning, ladies and gentlemen, are rural infrastructure, rural roads. One of the reasons that food is expensive is because in most cases, the roads that connect the farmlands to the cities are bad. Yes, we are aware of the World Bank supported projects, rural access and mobility project all over in various parts of the country. But how far-reaching is that? And for how long are we going to continue like that? I know that there are some rural roads in Nigeria, particularly in the southwest, that date as far back as the 60s, and they have not gotten even a makeup, not much less any upgrade whatsoever. So, Neta, talking about infrastructure, we still have a long way to go. We are not where we used to be, but we are nowhere close to where we want to be.
Well, it's a thorny subject that we can't put aside, because the truth is this: the Constitution gives each arm or each level of government its responsibilities. There are roads that are meant to be handled by the state. There are roads that are meant to be handled by the federal government, and there are roads that are meant to be handled by the local government. Now, Ayo has said, take the queries to their doorsteps. It's not just the chairman. There is a legislative arm of the local government administration, the councillors. Go to your councillor. He lives on your street. Well, as
Why
Malcolm...
are you being presumptuous?
No.
The councillor lives
I
there.
was just about to say that Malcolm had just said that the local government administration has moved out of the local government. The chairman, the councillors suddenly moved out to the state capital, and some of them beyond. Their children even are schooling abroad. But that's not what it was meant to be. As I say, that's not the original plan. Can we get back to the original plan? There are things meant to be handled by the local government, and they ought to handle them, just as the state's supposed to handle certain things. And the citizens, when you wake up and begin to hold them accountable, not just during elections they come and give you one bag of rice or a cup of curry and then you vote for them. No, it's time to hold them accountable for the job they chose to come out and do. They decided to make that choice.
Do votes happen at local government level?
Oh, yeah, they're supposed to.
Keyword there.
But hey, we'll take a moment and then we'll come back to look at what the papers are saying. Don't go away.
Between
newspaper, this is what they lead with. Tinubu hugs deadline, replaces 4 names on ministerial lists. That's on page 5. Now, the previous week there had been that conversation. The list is out. In fact, there's this document flying around on social media that is really blurred, that you can't make out the name. It looks like a list. It's on social media, but hey, this is what Vanguard's leading says. Tinubu hugs deadline, replaces 4 names on ministerial list. Choice of APC chairman creates ripples in APC. President torn between Ganduje and Almakura. And then you see the picture of the president and the 2 gentlemen there, Ganduje and Almakura. But hey, internal party situation affecting the nation as regards choice of ministers and the submission. The deadline's almost here. It's supposed to be 60 days by the Constitution. Let's hope that the president and his team are able to get that sorted in time as Nigerians wait. But beside that picture, you have cash crunch. Artisans now going to collabo to survive. Working together makes it easy. You want to go far.
Go alone?
Yeah, if you want
No.
If you want to go on a journey, you can go alone. But if you want to go far, then go with someone. So maybe collaborations will make it easier. We'll divide the cost of diesel, divide the cost and all, and we'll make maximum profits. I think it will go along with. Page 7 will give you more details on that. World Bank states build national social register. World Bank. States build national social register. Sources. Who are those sources? Page 27 will tell you more about that. And then again, another story there. APC crisis. Adamu's greatest sin was trying to impose Lawan as presidential candidate. Vice chairman. Speaking there, page 9. School fees increase. Don't snuff life out of us. Parents beg Tinubu. It's on page 9. Which of the schools? Okay. I don't know. Over 1 billion people risk hunger globally. World Bank is speaking on page 8. You get that. And then if you flip to the back page for sports, we'll push for maximum points against Australia, Ireland. That's calling from Ajibade. The Nigeria's Super Falcons are at the Women's World Cup. Their first game was a draw. They have another game coming up. Let's hope they do better. And that's it from the Vanguard.
The Abuja Inquirer is up next, and I'm looking at this one for you. The lead story says, as hardship deepens, FCTA unveils food subsidy. That's what you find on the front page there, to subsidize grains and fertilizers. That's the lead story right there. You also see this new toll fare for Abuja Airport, now August 1. That's according to FAN. So if you're going to be driving to the airport, be ready to pay a new toll. Don't forget that just a few months ago, Abuja Airport was restructured in a very interesting way where you had to pay for parking. And that came without notice. I remember doing a protest, a one-woman protest, and say, how can you do this without any notice? I mean, without letting people know. But the truth is, apart from the major toll, at the major toll gate leading to the airport, you can easily drop off a loved one or pick up a loved one without paying for parking if you time your visit properly. But if you don't, and you have to even as much as drive through the parking area, at least 500 naira is going to leave your pocket.
So
it
everywhere
looks like
you turn, you have to drop something.
Oh, yes. Taxation in full swing. Can say that again. FAN is looking for how to increase revenue. And so, new toll fare for Abuja Airport now August 1. That's according to FAN. You've been notified. I helped with the notification. Look on top of the nameplate there. Article to Tribunal. Do justice. Let the heavens fall. It's a quote right there. Page 3 of the paper is where you get details. Appeal Court void order on e-transmission of election results. Chides Labour Party. The story is also right there on page 11 of the paper. We'll leave it there for the Abuja Inquirer.
Well, let's turn our attention to the Guardian newspaper. I'm glad you talked about the airport toll and all of that. There's this taxi, app, let's say by FAN as well, and there's been a lot of complaints about it that people can't access the usual ride-hailing app, so they have to resort to FAN's taxi app, and you know what that means. They are charged more because they banned those other ones, so you have to go with the FAN taxi app. I mean, it's appalling for a lot of people. Why do that? And then you know that you have to charge this extra.
Create a monopoly in a deregulation.
Exactly. Oh. Wow.
Okay, just go to the paper.
The Guardian newspaper is next, and the big story on the front page of The Guardian, it's on the 105 Mondays of sit at home in the Southeast. It says Southeast loses 7.6 trillion naira productivity, investments to agitation in 2 years. Some of the text is hidden, or at least is clashing with the roof on that front page. But that's a big story for you right there. It's a page 6 read, and yet again that topic crops up. Not like it left anyway, but it's a big one. And you see some of the Southeast leaders right there on the front page. APC NWC Lukman lock horns over party's chairmanship. That's a big one brewing. You just wonder, when will the parties, particularly the ruling party, get a breather? Who knows? But yeah, that's a big story. But just one more for you. From prison to correctional center, what has changed? Fantastic question right there.
Let's look at that. Would say, big question.
Indeed. That's the Guardian newspaper.
The Daily Times newspaper seems to know that we will talk about this infrastructure this morning, so check out what it says on its front page. Governor spits fire on FG.
Oh dear, is the FG burning?
Well, it's about state of federal roads. You have to check the skin of the FG to check whether or not there is a burning. But clearly, it's of course the governor of Edo State in response to the things that people were saying, and I want to believe that this kind of conversation comes up at the National Economic Council meetings because it affects every governor.
Well, I mean, from what we know, the last one was about the palliatives or not, how to cushion the effect of subsidy removal. I don't know if, I really wish these issues come up, but then don't forget NEC is an advisory body. So just to what extent can
at least raise the issues,
right.
for God's sake, because over the weekend, I think it was on Friday, a release came out. I'm not sure whether it's from NIMET or it was from NIMET or these other institutions, saying that there's going to be massive rainfall over the weekend. I think clearly, that happened.
That happened.
So knowing that these things would happen, what are we doing to get ahead of it? To forestall loss of lives and property and all of those things. So that's the lead story of the Daily Times newspaper this morning. If you want to know how Lagosians are coping with the new realities, the story is right above the nameplate of the Daily Times. Fuel price hike. How Lagos residents are coping with hardship, burglary, begging, saw lavish celebrations dip. That's the Daily Times newspaper this morning.
It's done.
Okay, New Telegraph is what I have here, and fuel. Nigeria, others face more pump price increase. That's what New Telegraph is leading with, page 2 and 8 to give you more on that. As IEF says, crude prices will rise in the second quarter. In quarter 2, nation will collapse if nothing's done to arrest trend. That's coming from an analyst. NLC's proposed 200,000 minimum wage not sustainable. LCCI, those are the writers to that story. And FG can save over 200 billion yearly for blocking loopholes in oil revenue. Header says 20 out of 36 oil terminals in Nigeria not metered. See that matter of we don't know how much we are making or how much crude we're pumping out. It says 20 out of 36 oil terminals in Nigeria not metered. So is it by sound of ear that they measure the quantity taken out? Oil companies owe federal government $62 billion. That's credited to Falana. Go to page 2 and 8 to find out exactly what Header is saying about the metering of oil terminals in the country. Below that, you have insecurity, why FG can't dialogue with bandits by lawyers. Is on page 9, 10, 11, 14, and 16. You get more details. It says impunity perpetrated by past governments stoking it. Onovo, which of the Onovos? The former IGP? As insecurity rekindles calls for state police. We will leave it there for New Telegraph, and by that we end a look at what some of the national dailies have to say. We'll be back in a moment to pick up our conversations. Don't go away.
The Lagos State government, through its Ministry of Health, has responded to reactions of a mass burial plan for casualties of the 2020 ENDSARS incident, saying peddlers of the news are deliberately misinterpreting and sensationalizing a letter from the Lagos State government's public procurement agency. According to the state government's response in the form of a statement signed by the Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Olusegun Ogboye, the Lagos State Environmental Health Unit picked up the bodies in the aftermath of ENDSARS violence and community clashes at Fagba, Ketu, Ikorodu, Orile, Ajegunle, Abulegba, Ikeja, Ojota, Ekoro, Ogba, Isolo, and Aja areas of Lagos State. There was also a jailbreak at Ikoyi prison. The 103 casualties mentioned in the document were from these incidents and not from Lekki tollgate as being alleged. For the avoidance of doubt, no body was retrieved from the Lekki tollgate incident.
In suit FHC/L/C,
it said, contrary to the disingenuous narrative woven around the recently approved mass burial, the hashtag ENDSARS panel subpoenaed the Lagos State chief pathologist to produce full records of unclaimed bodies of dead deposited with State Central Morgue during the days immediately after preceding and following the event at Lekki Tollgate on October 10, 2020. According to the statement, the subpoena was at the request of lawyers who represented ENDSARS protesters, and the chief pathologist complied. The permanent secretary said, there was not a single finding in the report or ensuing white paper attributing the death of any named citizen listed in the autopsy to the Lekki incident. He said in the aftermath of the ENDSARS violence, the Office of the Chief Coroner invited members of the public through public adverts and announcement, citing November 18, 2020 in the Punch newspaper and November 19, 2020 in This Day newspapers, who had lost loved ones or whose relatives had been declared missing between October 19 and 27th of 2020 from various clashes as mentioned, to contact the Department of Pathology and Forensic Medicine of the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital to help with the identification of casualties deposited in state-owned morgues and relatives were to undergo DNA tests to identify purposes. According to the statement, after almost 3 years, the bodies remain unclaimed, adding to the congestion of the morgues. Thus spur the need to decongest the morgues, a procedure that follows very careful medical and legal guidelines in the event that a relative may still turn up to claim a lost relative years after the incident. On that note, the Lagos State government appealed to those it called rumor mongers to allow hapless families of the unclaimed loved ones deserved closure. Amarachi Ubani, Channels Television News.
Well, this conversation, I mean, it's back again. It never really went away for a lot of people, but with the leaking of that memos that have been written by, within the Lagos state government, set up, essentially, the questions have been raised yet again. And we're joined on the program this morning to take a look at this by Mr. Adishino Ogulano, who is a legal practitioner and lead counsel to ENDSARS petitioners. He joins us virtually from Lagos this morning. Good morning, Mr. Ogulano. It's good to see you again.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning. It's important to also state that we reached out to the Lagos State government to send a representative on this conversation so we can get both sides. But clearly, they're yet to show up. But as soon as they do, we'll bring them into this conversation. But Mr. Ogulano, I mean, reading through that leaked memo and seeing the casualty figure, 103, whatever the case is, wherever the the bodies were gotten from, it is saddening nonetheless because these are human lives. Anyway, the Lagos state government has given some sort of explanation as to how those bodies were gotten, saying they're not from the Lekki toll gate incident. But please tell us, seeing that leaked memo and the conversation that has trailed it, putting into consideration the Lagos state government's response as well in that statement, what is your reaction to this?
Well, even though I do not hear you so very clearly, but the much I've heard is that you are asking my reaction to the news coming from Lagos state government and the clarification they have sought to do. Well, let me say something. The government is being clever by half, and they are telling not the absolute truth. Yes, I agree with the position that the 103 bodies that were said, not all of them were picked up from Lekki Toll Gate and its environs. It is true that, to use the word the pathologist used, that's Professor Bafunwa at the panel, he was saying bodies were scavenged. That is, that's the language they use, that they are picked from different places. Corpses were picked from different places. But around the area of the Lekki toll gate, there are corpses too. And these bodies were retrieved, some of them were dumped at the General Hospital, at the Lagos Island and all that. So for government now to be saying, oh, no, there was nobody. In fact, they use the word there's no named citizen. Now, the question I want to ask them is this. Even the 103 people or corpses now that they want to dispose of, did they have any names? There was no name. And I want to correct the impression. The bodies that were taken around the environment of the Lekki toll gate, when Baba Fafunwa was speaking, he at least identified 3 that were perforated with missiles. So 3 were perforated with missiles. So this statement are saying it's unfortunate. I think on both sides, people saying that, oh, the 103 is proof that actually 103 people were killed at the Lekki toll gate. I think that's a very, very grave error and I will not join anybody saying that. But to say that there was nobody recovered in the environment of that Lekki toll gate, of that incident of 2010, 2020 is completely wrong. And if we want to go beyond that, the people that are dead are dead. But what even now the government, the system of governance that we have in Lagos State, and by extension Nigeria, is showing that they are even profiting. You want to profit by cruel loss of life. How could you say that you have approved 61 million naira to bury 103 degraded bodies in a mass grave? People that are unidentified, people that nobody came up to claim and all that. I mean, that's horrendous. And that is part of the problem why Nigeria cannot recover back, because we have the leadership that is asking the poor, the masses to sacrifice, and then you are running very expensive, bloated government. How can you imagine that? Something that a local government can do, mass burial, just 103 people. How many people have the Nigerian army buried on the war front? Is this how they are spending money? This is the concern of me as a person, of my two organizations, the Ramimba Radical Agenda Movement in the NBA, that sponsored us to go and represent these people at the Lekki Toll Gate panel, you know, and as well as oxygen. We said people should breathe, and you want to bury 103 people with 61 million naira, degraded body.
Well, Mr. Gulano,
I mean, this is not it at all. So I fought the position of government that just been clever by half. Even though I do not support, frankly speaking, a position that says all the 103 people were victims that were killed or were massacred at the Lekki Toll Gate. This is my response.
Right. So you sort of balanced that statement and the leaked memo that came out, spoken for both sides. But another major issue which you have raised is the funds. So let's quickly speak to that, because there are other issues that have come up. But regarding the money budgeted for it, according to that memo, I mean, I will not pretend to know what it costs to go through that whole process of laying to rest, you know, corpses and all of that. Are you saying that it shouldn't be as much as 61 million? If you're saying that, do you understand the process, and how much do you think it should cost instead for 103
my brother, we are talking of mass burial. You are not doing individual plots. You are saying mass burial. People, where there was a situation like that about, 20 years ago, when people, during the stampede, I think July 2001, when there was a bomb scare or something, and a lot of people perished at Okiafa, near Isolo and Ejigba and everything, and there was mass burial for them. For goodness sake, let us be sane in this country. And government should not be taking people for fools and act with impunity. For what are you doing? 103, they are not famous people. They are actually unknown people, and they are degraded. We are talking of cadavers. Virtually, that's what you are doing. And it's on a unmarked grave. You are not raising a senator over them. There's not a monument over them. In fact, I'll be surprised if any serious government can claim to do that exercise more than 1 million or 2 million naira at the most. Not to talk of 61 million naira. In this situation that we are, you are saying let the people breathe, let the people breathe. How can people breathe when you are mismanaging, diverting it? I mean, how can you even give that as a contract? They are giving it as a contract. When I read the thing, how can it be a contract? You don't have Ministry of Health, you don't have local governments, mass burial. 103 people, not 10,000 people, not 1,000 people, 103 people, degraded bodies. Most of maybe dust and something, bones and all that. 61. Look, let's begin to interrogate government. This is not right. There's no decent Nigeria. There's no decent Nigeria that can defend this anywhere. Okay. What? Dig up a large expanse of land?
When we, breaking it down, breaking 61 million naira, well, there is a little bit on top of it, but breaking 61 million naira down by 103 comes to something in the region of 592,000 naira each. And, well, again, as we said, Lagos state government owes Nigerians, particularly Lagosians, an explanation as to that. We've reached out to them. We're waiting and hoping that they will come out to us. But is this significant for you, Mr. Oglano, that maybe it's total sum of keeping the bodies over the past 3 years? Because, I mean, they were stored somewhere in morgues, right? So it's not like they were just left to rot in some place. They were kept in morgues. And do you think it could be accumulation of such consideration?
It cannot be. With due respect, thank you for bringing that. I mean, it has crossed my mind too. I mean, when we are talking of transparency in governance now, when you are keeping bodies, you said you have kept the bodies for almost 3 years. Oh, is that the same thing as mass burial? That's preservation now. I will be surprised now when they say that if you want to bury a one-day incident with 61 million, it's most likely if you have preserved bodies for 3 years, you are not clear to say now it is 1 billion naira you have used to preserve 103 bodies for 3 years. I mean, it cannot add up. There are two different things. Preserving bodies and all that. Is it the Lenin mausoleum in Russia, where they say that the supreme leader has been kept in that kind of pristine condition for about 100 years or whatever of the revolution? That's not the situation.
Well, Mr. Oglano,
These are unknown people. These are unclaimed bodies.
Yeah, we are just raising the issues, just you know, at least to give people perspectives to this. But another thing that's, you know, a concern, which I think you have also spaded, which you may want to speak to a little more clearer, is how significant do you think it is that, according to the government, relatives of the 103 individuals we're talking about here, human lives, as Kade put it the other time, snuffed out. How significant is it to you that their relatives didn't show up to claim or identify them even 3 years after that notice was put out, according to government, 3 years ago? How significant is it to you that, you know, the relatives didn't come out?
Thank you so much. It's significant morally, legally, and it's a pointer to the kind of a country we are trying to live in. Let me say, sir, one of the things opponents of the ENDSARS movement used to say that times that, oh, indeed, if people were shot, if people were injured, if people were killed, how come are they ghosts? Don't they have families? And we try to explain that you are talking of a situation of an environment of blanket terror. I knew what took myself and my team to even manage to get the few people. I think in all I represented about 24 people at the panel. If you follow the panel, you find out that the first 2 or 3 sittings, it was only government show, the Lagos state government, the Nigerian military and all that. We couldn't even manage to get ENDSARS people who could dare to come out. The survivors, you have to split with their parents. Some of them have to defy their parents. They have to trust in us because they were haunting them. Many of them ran away. DJ Switch is just a popular one. So many of them ran away. Now, Lagos state government in their publication say, oh, they even advertised, like, let people come out. Nobody trusts government in Nigeria. This is the truth. If you can recollect the horror of 2010, Yoruba people say, Ìbọn lápátí, ìbọn ò lápátí, ta ló fẹ́ ká kojú ìbọn bòun. Whether a gun has bullet or does not have a bullet, would you like to be faced with down the nozzle to stare down the nozzle of a barrel of a gun? So if you remember that day, it was very horrifying. And it was that particular incident that sparked the city-wide, nationwide outrage that led to looting, that led to killing of people and trying to suppress the riot. So now the Lagos state government by itself say, oh, we even advertise for people to come. People didn't come out. Who wants to come out? And people say, the person whose mother has been macheted to death by a madman, if he sees a mechanic with their rough dress, he will run away. It was just an illustration. So does it now mean because people did not come, all these three people, can we now turn the argument against Lagos State government and say, oh, you are just merely telling a lie, you just want to embezzle money, that's why you are claiming 103 people. Where are their family?
That message
you can
received.
see how ridiculous the position of those people.
Pardon me, Mr. Ogulano, because we're running out of time on this.
Significant.
If you can still hear me. Now that you bring in now that you've brought in the angle of the panel that sat and all the issues that were raised, how significant is this particular issue you're talking about now to the outcome of the panel? Because, I mean, it's very concerning, isn't it?
But where I would say that it's only proved indeed that people not only died in Lekki, people died all over. And one of the points, one of our arguments before the panel is that it is significant that earlier on that day, there had been a situation at Orile involving the police. The military did not go there. The first casualty, the first shootout and everything, confrontation, was at Orile on that day. The military did not go there because that was not the epicenter of the ENDSARS protest in Lagos State. They didn't go there. They only went to Lekki and went to Ikeja. They went to Ikeja, because I was there at Ikeja. They went to Ikeja and then moved to Lekki, or maybe they did a pincer movement and went to Lekki. So that tells you what the Honorable Justice Okuwobi's panel did was true. They did not say 103 people, but the evidence before them showed that people were shot at, people died, and I'm relying on Obafunwa. And more importantly, you will recall that, was it not 2 years ago, that the governor, and I'm speaking authoritatively here, the governor admitted to it by himself that victims, they've reached out to victims, and I know for a fact that they gave each, at least of the people that are represented behind the table, behind the door, 3.2 million naira in cash. I mean, if there are no victims, if nothing happened, why did Governor Gide Sanwo-Olu government now a year after denying, after set up a white paper to say, oh, there was no massacre, then why did you give money to these people? I know they are my clients. I know they did it. And they gave to other people too, as represented by senior counsel Olumide Fusika and his own team. It only proved that government was lying, government has been duplicitous, and they've had to come out clean, really, on this issue.
Okay.
But I do not agree that the panel found that 103 people were killed at Lekki Gate. I will not join people to say that.
Well, as you said, Professor John Obafunwa had said that a total of 99 bodies were recorded between October 19th and 24th, and 3 were from Lekki. So he said that much before the panel, which you, of course, also participated in. But I'd like you to speak to this as we wind down now. So the panel of inquiry was set up. 32 recommendations were made. I think 11 were taken by the government, and some others were forwarded to the federal government and the NEC. There's still unresolved issues, at least as far as some people are concerned, from those recommendations, and it raises questions whether or not this will ever die down. But speak to this. Questions are being raised. If this was meant to be done in secrecy, if the government was doing anything sinister, or trying to cover up anything, at least regarding these bodies, why would it raise a memo? Why would it have any paper trail such that, I mean, if there's a paper trail, it can be found out anyway. So to that extent, would you say that the government was indeed trying to cover up something if there's actually a paper trail?
Oh, are you talking of the memo of the burial?
Yes, the memo of the burial now.
Oh, the memo of the burial. I will only say that, you see, they have to do things by, there's a not just a matter of paper trail. Like they said, truthfully, after the crisis, I think maybe after the panel, during the panel, there was an announcement, I read this in the paper too, that please come out to the different bodies littering our mugs and all that. If you know them, please come. If you don't come, we'll dispose of them and all that. So that is not eviction. They did that. And so when they now came out now to say, oh, that they want to bury all these people, and these bodies were picked up during, I think, about 8 days or 9 days, real uprising. I'll call it an intifada, to use the Palestinian situation, as an illustration. So what I'm trying to say is that now they say, so, okay, we now want to do this because after 3 years and nobody has come up and all that, even vehicles, after some times they dispose them of, that's normal. I won't say it's a cover-up. What we are saying is that 61 million naira, 61 million naira, like your colleague there tried to do a kind of rough mathematics, about 500,000 naira per for what? For what? So the Lagos State government is put under task. My organization is sending a letter to them today or tomorrow to say, why will it be like this in a situation where price of everything has risen, your colleges have risen, I'm talking about the fees, transportation has risen, there's a threat on electricity, you're asking people to tighten their belt and to bear the pain that's going to be again. Why are you still running an extortionate and expensive form of governance? And you say, and your Oga, the president, say, let the people breathe. That is the party they belong to. But they are breathing very, very well by taking away the oxygen of the people. That's how we see it.
Right. Clearly, the Lagos State government still has questions to answer regarding the funds. What is it, or what are they being used for? And all the other questions raised by essentially people who are meant to get answers. I mean, that's what government is for. But we'd like to thank you so much, Mr. Adesina Ogulana, who is a legal practitioner and lead counsel to ENDSARS petitioners. Thank you so much for your time on the program.
Bye.
Right, we'll take a moment now. When we return, we're talking about an important conversation. It concerns security, and that's the moment. Stay with us.
The Nigerian army is not overwhelming in any respect. Yes, the crisis on the plateau has been on for over 10 years, but the Nigerian army, including the other services and other security agencies, have been responding to this crisis. I also need to bring to the fore the fact that in combating any crisis, it's usually juggling what we call the three trinity in the military. That is the people, the government, and the military. So it's a careful balancing act. And so if the military is working very effectively and the people do not cooperate with the military, the results will be negative. And if the government do not, so I ask for the cooperation of all stakeholders in Plateau with the troops. Give them information, trust them, respect them, they will respond. Within a short spell, you can see that the situation in Mangu has been brought under control. There's stability in Mangu now. What we want to do is to project out to other parts of Plateau such that there will be peace all around, even beyond Plateau. But the troops are not overwhelmed. They are reacting appropriately, but we need the cooperation of the larger society to be more effective. Be rest assured that these troops under my command will give their very best, and they will stamp out every form of insecurity and bring peace and stability to law-abiding citizens.
Well, welcome back. And this time we're looking at security on the plateau so that we will not have that kind of situation. We'll be looking for how to do a mass burial. Enough of the burials. I think it's time to leave. Actually, the people live. Well, the Nigerian Army launched Operation Hakurin Damisa Special Forces to restore normalcy across the Plateau. And if you listen to that report, you heard the Army commander there talking about the plans and what is on ground. But they also need the people to work. To help us understand what's happening on the Plateau, we have in the studio here a member representing Jos South East Federal Constituency, Honorable Dachong Bagos. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good morning. Morning, Nigeria.
And you're obviously not happy with the situation on the Plateau.
No Plateau citizen is happy. Neither any Nigerian is happy with what is happening on the Plateau and other places. And ours is that after all is said and done, let our people live in peace. Let our people have the right to livelihood. And at the same time, with the common phrase, let our people breathe. Yeah.
And that's going to be on many fronts. You know, the very fact that people leave means people have to breathe first.
Yeah.
You know, for them to be alive. It's a very, very detailed sign of people. I mean, it's the most basic sign of life when you find out that somebody is breathing. And in this situation, we're not even talking the economics. We're talking about lives, security of lives and property. And the situation has been really tough on the Plateau, looking at a number of local governments, but I think the local government has come under focus in recent times has been Mongo. What exactly is the status of things right now? We've seen quite a number of visits. Initially, we saw the visit of the Inspector General of Police. Now we're also hearing from the Chief of Army Staff, who has launched a new operation in that particular area. For you, do you think that this is going to make any difference from what we used to have? I think it was an operation, is it something Haven? I'm trying to remember Safe Haven, yes. That's the operation that has been on the Plateau for the longest of times.
Yeah.
Well, do you think that this new operation is going to be any different from how Operation Safe Haven had operated?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say much difference in trying to be able to articulate the issues, in giving Plateau people the sense of belonging in terms of justice. But the only difference you usually have is that when the military come into to all these crisis areas, we have the calmness, which is what we all yearn for, which is the primary responsibility of the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. And if you recall, we requested for their intervention through the Executive Governor of Plateau State. We went around the service chiefs to be able to solicit for their support. And when we cried, the President gave a directive that, look, they should be able to come into. So whatsoever solution they are bringing now to allow our people to breathe, we accept it with whole hands. But the aftermath is what usually is our own problem, that our people are being killed on a daily basis. Intervention will come in the sense that to breach and to stop the killings, but life after that, you still have our people in IDP camps that couldn't go back to their own villages that they were chased. You still have the sign of injustice, because the people that were being killed up till now have not gotten justice. So balancing the intervention is what we'll always seek and yearn for after now. Yes, what we solicited for came in, and we appreciate that fact. And justice is part of what, again, we are seeking for. That after all is said and done, the people and the number of people that have been killed, what happens to their families? The villages that have been raided, what happened to those villages? And that is the narration that I want government to look into. What are the root causes? Because the narration that has always gone out is farmers and herders clash. That has always been the wrong narration. But looking at the real causes in terms of theory, in terms of putting the theory of what represents this local government. We have 17 local government on the plateau. Why is it that the heat is always on Barkin Ladi, Riom, it was a Bassa, Jos South, and recently Mongu, 6 out of 17. So these are the local government that has like high level of mineral resources and agricultural produce in the state.
So you're implying that this is not to the crux of this insecurity is not far from economic.
It's not far from because economic and political, as far as I'm concerned, because at the end of the day, you are chasing these people from these local areas. And when you chase them, if it is a clash, which means at the end of the day, the two parties should be able to have casualties. But this is a situation where you chase the people entirely, and you occupy. That's an act of genocide. That's an act of land grabbing. So what we still yearn for from the military is that when you have actualized and normalized the areas, you should be able to give us our land back. Our people should be able to go back to their various places. But from 2001 and whatsoever, you will have a lot of community people that have reintegrated in different other communities. They have not gone back to their own villages. And so I will want government, now that we have a listening leadership in terms of security, because I must, in as much as I'm PDP, I must applaud the president that among the governors since he came into power, among the first governors he saw was the governor of Plateau State from a PDP state. And again, when we cried on these issues, he outrightly gave a command that the security should immediately take charge of those areas. So that we applaud him. We appreciate him for that. And looking at those, we want him to go further. That look, ensure that the land of these people are being given back to them. Because we have a lot of illegal occupants. Today in Mongu, apart from the city center of Mongu, a lot of villages in Mongu are now empty. And when you leave those villages within the next 1 year, because of fear of going back, these villages will be occupied by illegal occupants that have chased the people. So what we will seek for after now is justice. A lot of houses have been burned. So who will now rebuild, and how will those houses be rebuilt for these people? If 61 million can be used to bury corpses, we want that 61 million, that amount to be used to rebuild our houses that has been burned. So that is where people...
1 million is Lagos. I mean, that's...
Yeah,
Lagos,
well, it's government.
that's the Lagos
anywhere,
state
anything
government.
can happen anywhere.
Yeah.
But further to that, I want us to be very practical in these issues. When you look at all these local government, I have a little slide here. When you look at this local government, let me start with Barkin Ladi. Barkin Ladi, with this population of over 100,000 people. Agricultural resources in Barkin Ladi. Barkin Ladi is a hub of potatoes production, Irish and sweet potatoes, vegetables, grains, and livestock. And when you look at the mineral resources in Barkin Ladi, you have not less than 7 to 8 mineral resources in Barkin Ladi, be it tin, kaolin, zircon, granite, so on and so forth in Barkin Ladi. Go to Bokos local government with over 264,000 people. It is a
Barkin Ladi, just so that people can have an idea for those who have been to Jos before, Barkin Ladi is where the airport is.
Yeah, Barkin Ladi is where the airport is. And even from the airport, you will see women selling potatoes on the road. You see a lot, and it's a hub of potatoes, being Irish and sweet potatoes. Go to the hinterland, you will see people mining, artisanal miners. But now, most of these mining sites in Barkiladi and Rio, most of these mining sites are not being mined by the locals, are being mined by people that you don't even know who they are today.
In the hinterland?
Yes, they are being mined, and not just being mined, they are heavily guarded. So what is government now going to do about these areas? Because this is not just about us saying, but these are practical issues that the people are there. People that couldn't go back to their own villages. And I always give example where the former senator died in 2012, the late Senator Danton, when he went for a mass burial. Up till now, nobody could access that village. So what is happening? Today, we have these interventions. Tomorrow, we can't access our villages for many years. So what is now happening? So, which means Mangu wasn't part of those areas that were attacked in many years. Today, Mangu is now on the map. And what do you have? What do you have in Mangu in terms of Mangu with a population of about 442,000 people? Mangu, agricultural resources in Mangu, potato production, vegetables, grains. Mangu is one of the local government that contributes to the GDP of this country almost over 10% in terms of grains production on daily basis. So now with what has happened, which means the country will now get short of grains production as a result of the crisis in Mangu. And still in the same Mangu, you still have mineral resources in Mangu. So, which means if you now look at the next local government that has these mineral resources and agricultural production, which means will be the next target.
I'm going to have to ask you to hold a moment. We'll come back and take a more critical look at each of the local governments, and perhaps, maybe our next guest might be able to tell us, if they've noticed some of these armed people who are guarding miners, artisanal miners in some parts of Plateau State, and whether he also agrees with the theory that perhaps this will I say rampage we've seen on the plateau is also as a result of economic reasons. I'm tossing it out to my colleagues in Lagos to help introduce our next guest.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. Where we have with us someone else joining in this conversation, but quite honestly, I'm still very, very concerned about that issue that Honorable Dachong Bagos raised. But joining us this morning is retired Commissioner of Police Jimwan Dezong here in this conversation. Thank you for joining us this morning, Mr. Dezong. You've heard the Honorable speaking about some of these things, and as a retired Commissioner of Police, what do you have to say about the issue he raised concerning illegal miners, for want of a better word, being so heavily guarded on the plateau? Can you hear me, Mr. Dezong? Okay, could you kindly unmute? We can't hear you at all. Okay, well, while we're dealing with that one, let me quickly come to you, Honorable. Just to be clear, when you say that these miners that you talked about, unidentified miners as you put them, are heavily guarded, kindly tell, what exactly do you mean? Are they being guarded by Nigeria's security officials, soldiers, the police? What kinds of security apparatus do they have around them? Honorable, can you hear me?
Yeah, okay, yeah, I can hear you. Well, it's going to be so absurd to say that these miners are guarded by security agencies. And what we know that these mining sites that we have on the plateau and most of these communities that you can have mineral resources cannot longer be accessed because of heavy artillery, because of people that will repeal anybody that wants to go into that. So when you hear gunshots from afar, and when you see that people are being killed within a range of kilometers before going to those sites, you should know that you can't even access that those areas. So whatsoever kind of ammunitions or artillery they have, that our own people cannot really even access to say that this is the person that, but they can no longer access their communities, which is very paramount. If you can not longer access channels television, which means somebody is refusing you from accessing channels television without you knowing who is doing that. So, but it's the self-security that are guarding us. We can't say that it is the security that are guarding them, because the security that we know that are to protect us will not be part of that.
That same issue, I'm wondering how involved or how much aware would you say the Federal Ministry of Solid Minerals was about, this particular situation? Because, I mean, it is squarely within the purview of the Federal Ministry of Solid Minerals to ensure that whatever needs to be done is done all right. So if the mining is happening in a particular locality, in a particular state, I expect there should be some kind of agreement or discussion or awareness of that activity by the governor from the Federal Ministry of Solid Minerals.
Yeah, quite well. Because over the years, there has been this negligence from ministry because of the law. What they usually term, most of our miners are illegal miners. So we have tried from the National Assembly to see how the laws will be amended, that these miners you see within these communities are artisan miners. So the law should be able to recognize them. The government should be able to engage them. I know the last phase, we're able to have an engagement with the Ministry of Solid Minerals. And even the current governor has gone to the Ministry of Solid Minerals twice to have an engagement with them. And we are trying as much as possible that, look, the law should be amended, that these miners we have within our communities, instead of calling them illegal miners, we should be able to have them as artisanal miners. When they are now artisanal miners, government will now be able to identify the genuine miners, give them artisanal licenses, the local licenses to be able to mine. So when government take charge of who is mining what, they'll be able to know how to be able to go about it. But when you only and all the time you tag these people as illegal miners, so the real illegal people will come and take over the territory. So that is the breach and the gap government needs to look into, that the genuine and the main locals, they should be able to come into as a cooperative, which we have interacted with the Ministry of Solid Minerals for the past 2 years or so, and which is what they are doing. But what they lack to be able to make it that, look, these artisanal miners should be able to be part of the law is the amendment and to ensure that this law come into place and signed by the president. Right. So when the law come into place, they will be able to address that gap very well. But when every day these people are being tagged as illegal miners, you won't know who is the genuine miner, you won't know who has license, you won't know who is doing what at the end of the day.
I mean, looking through the local governments that are affected and just how much resources they have, both agricultural and mineral. I mean, I'm seeing granite, lead, quartz. I mean, very, very, how will I say, highly sought after mineral resources. You just wonder why Plateau State is still where it is. Naturally, does not deserve to be there. And as you've said, this has been called different things. Herders-farmers clashes, communal clashes, it's been called even just plain terrorist attack and all of that. But I understand that our other guest is ready. So just a moment, Honorable, I'll come to you. But let's bring in Mr. Jim Wendezong, who's a retired commissioner of police, and get him to respond to that question or the comments you've raised about being essentially resource-related conflict, and that security forces, or indeed it looks like security forces aren't doing the work they're meant to do, since these illegal miners are not getting the kind of attack they should get. So if you could speak to this, retired commissioner, this is really strictly at the doorstep of security agencies.
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, the issue is that most of these mining areas are in the areas where it is inhabited by the people. So people are coming to attack the indigenous or the or the occupants of the area where this mining is taking place. So it is difficult for you to understand whether the people who are attacking them are the same people that are providing security for the illegal miners. That's the issue. At times, you find out that somebody within his household, the little space where he farms could be a place where this mining activity is taking place. So you cannot comprehend, you cannot say for sure whether the attackers are the same people who are providing security for the illegal miners.
I mean, just to get some experience from you, from your vast experience. So if you say that it's tough to know who is who, I mean, aren't arrests made? Aren't they processed? Aren't they interrogated? Isn't there some sort of prosecution? I imagine security agencies don't just stay afar off and say, okay, who is this person? So what do you mean by it's hard to tell who is who? Does it mean that security agencies stay aloof and just expect the information or the clarification to come to them?
You see, as a matter of fact, most of our people live in the rural areas. And sometimes, due to logistic problem and the terrain, our security men cannot reach everywhere at every given time. So most attacks until the attack is carried out, that the information is made available to the security agents. So in rushing to the place, they may only race there to count the number of corpses or the dead bodies that have been killed. Now, why I'm saying that sometimes it is very difficult to understand whether the killers are people that are providing security to illegal miners, because these are areas where sometimes the terrain, you can only assess it by foot. Sometimes, in most cases, by motorcycles. So, yes, our people live in the rural areas, and side by side with their farmlands are all these mining areas. Somebody will go to assess his farm. They will hear gunshot, only to discover that the person has been gunned down. He may not be alive to say this is the direction where the firing power or the gun is coming from. So it is always difficult. But the simple issue is that the people who are in this conflict with the indigenous people, they should manifest, they should make known what is actually their problem. Because in conflict management, the parties involved should be sincere to one another. What is the problem? Let us sit down and discuss the issue. When we discuss issue and we arrive at a solution, and yet the same thing is reoccurring, it is very difficult for somebody to understand whether there's trust. In fact, there's a deficit trust in all that is happening in the Plateau. Because the people who are...
Mr. Dazong, if I may come in here, when you say these people should be sincere with each other, one begins to wonder. I mean, there was a time when the Plateau was considered one of the most peaceful states in the country, and many of these people have lived with each other side by side over a while. When you say it's not, they're not being sincere with each other, why would you say that?
Yes. The reason why the issue of insincerity is coming in is that, yeah, you are right. We live side by side. But a situation where a mere quarrel that can be settled. The following day, you see your neighbor running away. The third day, an attack is coming up. What is the issue? Is there any sincerity after you have agreed that, okay, let us agree, let us talk over it, let us resolve it? Then people will go and say, yes, we have resolved it, but yet the same thing is still reoccurring. There's no sincerity.
So you're saying that this is not an economic situation. I mean, considering the fact that these 6 local government areas that have had the most occurrence of these attacks are considered some of the wealthiest in terms of mineral resources and agricultural resources as well. You are not looking at it from that angle.
Yes, there is this element of economic. There's also this element of land grabbing, because the question is that if somebody is displaced from his home, the following day you see somebody staying there. You see somebody either removing doors. You see somebody either changing the position of things. Of course, you will know that it is land grabbing, because these people that have been displaced, if you go to these areas, you find out that the people who displaced them, they are there.
So who are the people that are displacing? Where are they coming from? Where are they coming from to come and displace these other people?
Of course, thank you very much. That is a very beautiful question. You say, I am in my 61 years now, and I know we have been living side by side with the Fulanis. We marry their wives, their daughters, and so forth. We collaborate during celebrations and so forth. But today, these same people who stay with us will invite other people that are not known to us, and before you know it, they have disappeared, and these people will rain havoc. On a serious note, I have to say it, I have to place it on good record. The people who are carrying out these killings are not the indigenous Fulanis. But the fact in issue is that the indigenous Fulanis are aware of the coming of these people. And that is why the killing is going on. Taking, for instance, in my local government, Mango local government, right from 2001, where we had crisis in Plateau State, there had never been any crisis in Mango local government. We cohabitate with all non-indigenous in the local government, no problem. But at this time around, our area is worse hit. You will find out that houses are destroyed. This is rainy season. If they set your house ablaze in the rainy season, of course, they don't want you to go back there. If they go to your farm and use cutlasses to mill your crop, of course, it is an indication that they don't need you, even your existence. Yes, the cows are the means of livelihood of the Fulani man. The crops are the livelihood of the Moravul man. So if you destroy his crops and you set his house ablaze, certainly there's no sincerity of purpose. You don't need him. You don't need him. You don't need his survival. Honestly speaking, what we used to read in Chaka de Zulu, his method of warfare, Scotch Arts policy, is exactly what is being meted in the Plateau. They destroy your house, they cut down your crops. Come on, what is the next thing? What do they want you to do? Is there any means of survival? Can we survive after the attack? The answer is no.
Well, I'm just wondering, Mr. Zadong, there are a number of things that are, that have popped up with what you have said, but a number of people will say, we've heard these things. When we hear the conflict in Benue State as well, it is the same story. In Plateau State right now, the situation there is really, really sad. Excuse me, anybody who has been to Plateau State and seen the beauty of the land will really be very, very heartbroken by what is currently happening in Plateau State. But only recently, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, the federal government declared a national emergency on the production of food. They want to see how they can bring food prices down. And they have ordered that the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Water Resources work together to see how they can, produce food all year round. They want to give seed grains to farmers, and they also want to give fertilizers as well. We're also seeing that they also want to provide security, which they know should be topmost on their agenda. Federal government is saying they want to buy land. They want to collaborate with the state governments to buy land and see how they can provide ranches for herders. Do you think that this will bring an end to the conflict if the federal government is able to buy land and provide ranches for herders whom we know are normally nomadic?
Thank you, Marpe. If the federal government lives by its bidding, by its saying, of course, most of these things will come to pass. But first and foremost, if we talk of food production, the immediate thing that has to come first is the security of the areas where the food is produced. When we tackle the security issues in areas where this food is produced, then we will be on the right course. But if we only talk when now this is the farming season, and I am telling you, in my area, people cannot go to the farm. Those who had already farmed their crops have been milled down. And our people are good in production of maize. And maize is a type of crop that once it has grown and you mute it, that is the end of it. It cannot regrow. So the federal government's policy is a laudable one, but the issue is that the security issue should be tackled first, then other things can come up. Right now, if you go to my area, hardly will you see farmers going to the farm. Now, the policy is a good policy. So let us tackle the security issue. If the security issue is tackled, sincerely speaking, the federal government will be on course in the promotion of food production.
Okay, let me ask Mr. Bagos, Honorable Bagos. I wanted to ask you as well if you heard about that particular policy. Was the president's media advisor who made the announcement, I think shortly after meeting with some farmers. I don't know whether it's something that you think will work if the federal government, because we do know that before now, the federal government has tried a number of policies, but oftentimes there's been pushback from the state government who say, who's going to give you the land, or whose land are you going to use?
Absolutely, Maufe. These issues have been on the front burner since the last administration.
Indeed.
Yeah, I can clearly recall when Plateau people rejected grazing reserve, be it ranching and so on and so forth, and it still stands. The thing here is, if government wants to look at subsidizing these issues, go down to the real basis. From the local governments that we mentioned here, out of 6 to 7 of those local governments, the only local government that majorly has the issue of livestock is likely Wasi. But Plateau people are agrarians. So why will you now make Plateau people to be second class? That you want to come and buy land for somebody to rear his cattle when that is not what we need. So go to areas that they are interested in livestock. Give them subsidy in that. And even the subsidy that I can further interrogate is this. One, my people are agrarian. So what we need is not the land. We have the land. So give us grains, give us fertilizer, and ensure security.
Yeah, but there is
go to areas.
Veterinary Institute in VOM.
Yes. So yeah, you use that. Give us whatever you want to use through the Veterinary Institute. Go to areas that are interested in livestock. Give them subsidy in this fattening cows or whatsoever cow create the ranch in that place because they already have the land to ranch. But not that you want to come to my village and forcefully acquire a land. By the way, most of these businesses are private business. So now I want to farm rice and corn. So will government now go and buy land for me in one of those states that I want to farm corn or I want to farm rice? Is that because that is what I'm interested in?
Okay, so
why will you now want to come to my own village that I must sell land for you to create a ranch?
So it does appear there needs to be greater engagement on this particular policy of government. Well,
so if you want to do ranching, there are in the 21st century, there are many ways you can be able to do that. And by the way, it's a private business. Most of these issues are private business. So if you want to give loan to whosoever wants to do either of them, whether you want to farm, you're into food crops, you're into whatsoever, you're into piggery or whatsoever, you want to rear cows, go to Bank of Industry, access loan, and go to wherever you want to get land, buy the land or lease the land, and you continue with that. And so these are issues that government really needs to come to the table and ensure that everybody is a first-class citizen
of Nigeria. Well, Honorable Bagas, we want to thank you for coming in this one. Let's hope that this matter of conversations and engagement will continue.
Yeah, well,
hoping that security issues will all be settled, decentralized, settled, and everyone will be treated as a first-class citizen of Nigeria and not just of the Plateau.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Honorable Dachong Bagas, member representing Just South East Federal Constituency, and joining us virtually, Jimwang Dezong, retired Commissioner of Police. He joined us from Plateau. Thank you both for coming in this morning. Sunrise Daily will be back in a moment. Just stay with us.
Heartburn and indigestion? Try Just Eat. My recommendation for the past 26 years, Just Eat. Reliable remedy for heartburn, indigestion, flatulence, and acidity.
A world of disruptions and rapidly changing business landscapes requires a cultivated mindset and strategic core competences to flourish. Equip yourself to flourish with Techsem UK's strategic leadership for success in a digital age. Leveraging Techsem's tested and proven methodology and led by distinguished faculty, Professor John Peters, Professor Paul Griffith, Ambassador Charles Crawford, and UK Member of Parliament Sir James Doddridge. The 4-day program holds on Doubletree by Hilton, London, from August 21st to 24th, 2023. Cost £4,469,750 after a 10% discount, covering study materials, 5 nights of hotel accommodation at Hilton, meals and certificate. For more information, visit www.techsem.co.uk. Email exec@techsem.co.uk. Call or text +44 7425 883791.
Techsem, insights that inspire, actions that change the world.
I keep trying. He might think I'm desperate. Is this dress even fine? What if he doesn't like me? He's here.
Let me speak. Joe? Same Joe.
Same Joe, minor differences. Same Joe, minor differences? Don't even think about judging Joe, because you're probably just like him. Why is the name on your business bank account Ahmed Aminu and not your business name? Same business, different name, right? Stop impersonating your business and get an account in your business name with MoneyPoint.
Whatever it takes to make sure you have a business account opened in your business name, we'll do it as your sure banker.
See trouble. Is this not the same me?
Open a bank account in your business name with MoneyPoint.
The Duchess International Hospital opened its doors in October 2021. The mission of the hospital is to reverse medical tourism. We take particular care here at the Duchess to bring together a combination of the brightest and the best locally, as well as Nigerians in the diaspora who are interested in returning to do very good work for the benefit of our patients here in this country.
The good thing is that we have all international expertise here, all international facilities here, international people working here. Everything is coming together in a space which was considered not great in terms of the availability of healthcare.
Axis Bank, of course, has been able to provide us with a robust range of products and services that has enabled us to deliver that standard and quality of healthcare that is integral to our mission as an organization.
That only comes from knowing you are fully sorted, to show up for you just when you need a hand. And when retirement comes with all its worries and storms, to ensure we will stand by you and give you the coverage that you deserve. Make the perfect choice. Choose PAL Pensions today.
PAL Pensions, your pal for life.
Let's talk some politics this morning with our guest, as you've seen there, Senator Adeseye Ogunlewe. He's a former Minister of Governance Advisory Council, APC in Lagos. He's also a retired permanent secretary in Lagos State Civil Service. Thank you for joining us this morning.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Good morning. Well, there are too many issues, both national and even your state, to talk about, and you're not unaware that, Lagos State has been in the news over the weekend. But from your experience as a retired permanent secretary, speak to us about what you think is missing. What's possibly responsible for? Is it a misunderstanding or miscommunication? We even reached out to the Lagos State government to come in, but it would seem like there's a general culture of silence. What do you think is missing?
I think it's communication. If you and trust of government is there on your behalf. And they are not there for themselves. You voted them in, and they must be responsible to you. So what you need to do is to invite the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Health, or Permanent Secretary, Health Management Board. They will give details. They will have nothing to hide.
Well, definitely. That can only be a hope, because after that letter, despite several efforts to get government to come speak with us today, that didn't happen. So it's not like we didn't try.
I don't think so. Get in touch with them. They will come. The Permanent Secretary will come, either from the Health Management Board or the Minister of Health. They owe the public, responsibility to explain, and they will not hide for you.
Well, we did reach out to the Lagos State government, and clearly we stated that they didn't send a representative. Hopefully they would, but the storyline, those who believe that the government should own up, or at least accept and say, well, yes, people were killed at that toll gate. Not as much as 103, but yes, we acknowledge that fact. And then let's move on. There were recommendations made in that from that panel. The Lagos State government accepted, I think, only 11. But each of the recommendations that referenced casualties at the Lekki toll gate, the government did not accept it. Do you think government has really done well in that light?
Definitely. They cannot hide for you. These people are people of integrity. They have their life to live after government, so they don't have anything to hide that is injurious to the public. I can bet you, even if you call the governor himself or the deputy governor, they will respond. They are for you. You voted them in, and they should be responsive to whatever you want to hear. And it is to their advantage if they explain to the public. If you don't do so, you leave the public to guess. And guesswork is destructive to any government.
But you also underscored the importance of building trust. How do you suggest that they do that if they are not willing to come out and talk to Nigerians? They will come.
I can assure you they will come. Get in touch with them. Honestly, they are, as I said, people of integrity. They're proving themselves along the line. They didn't just come into politics, to look for work. These are self-made people who came to serve. So let us give them the trust Let us believe in them. Let us hear them out. I can assure you, I have interacted with them. These are complete, honest, and gentle people. They will come. I can assure you.
Well,
they will listen. They will explain.
Again, I have to restate that we've invited the Lagos State government. So maybe you're saying resend the invitation when we know that we've not gotten any feedback from the one we put out. But let's talk politics, because a lot of people would say clearly it's what's happening within political parties that then, dovetails or snowballs into governance itself. You can literally know what to expect from a government from what is happening within the political party or the political space. I mean, you are a member of the APC. You have vast experience across the AD, the PDP, now the APC. And with what's going on within your party, I know that the spokesperson of your party has come to say there is no crisis, but we've seen Mr. Saliu Lukman, who's been outspoken about what's going on within the APC. In that letter he put out, saying that the APC's statutory organs were frozen, prior to the resignation of Senator Abdullahi Adamu. No meetings of party organs were taking place. NWC became practically an observer, where the national chairman and national secretary basically usurped the power. So clearly there were issues within your party, but he's even more concerned that you might be entering a bigger crisis. And I just want to know, is it that parties, particularly your party, is not ready to be democratic, in fact progressive, as the name implies?
My experience with human being is that individuals have their own character, built up from their family background, from their exposure, and from their experience. And where we have about 32-member, executive committee, there must be differences. There must be checks and balances. There must be discussion. So I am not surprised that one of them is raising this issue. And the issues must be addressed. Fortunately for the party, the two main persons, the chairman and the secretary, they've resigned. So we can move forward. Let the executive committee elect another person or select or appoint. This is not the time to talk about party. Governance is more important than party. Let the party take care of themselves. As far as I'm concerned, party has very little relevance in the presidential system. The party is gone. It is governance now. So let the party sort them out. Let the president govern. And that is what the people are up to. Members of the political party can be struggling. It doesn't affect the government. Government should take responsibility to address the issue that is affecting Nigerians.
From your experience, Senator, how much does politics affect governance? If we're going to look at a ratio of 1 to 10, 10 being extremely, how much do you think politics should affect governance? Because, as Kayode said, there really isn't governance without politics in a democracy. So how significantly should politics affect governance?
Nigeria is very lucky to have Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Senator, as the president of Nigeria. It's a mixture of the two. It's an extremely, knowledgeable political person. He knows the importance of the party, and he knows the importance of governance. My own experience in the presidential system of government, the buck stop at the table of Mr. President. What does he want? Like a person like Obasanjo, at the cabinet level, the chairman of the party and the secretary will sit down in cabinet to discuss matters so that the party is not excluded.
To discuss governance issues?
Yes. So the party is not seen
So clearly
excluded.
there's a role for political parties,
Yes.
a major role.
Yes. So that the chairman of the party will have a role to play in governance so that there will be no disrespect, because naturally the party people will think that, yes, we put you there and we are not participating in governance, because the type of presidency we are running, most members of the cabinet may not be politicians, and they are now taking over the benefit that politicians have reaped. So what is their role again? Once they are totally excluded, they are uncomfortable. So what you should do, and the constitution of the party provides for that. You can have caucuses, you can have discussion with them, you know, just carry them along. They are not going to lose anything.
I find it quite interesting, the word you used, benefit, because a lot of people who think that primarily going into governance is to serve the people, and perhaps the benefits can come afterwards, but that should not be the most important thing. What would I benefit from government, either as a political player or otherwise? But I'd like you to speak to this point. So you have placed the president above the party, so whatever he wants should be what should play out within the party. Some will question how democratic that is. Some will say that is autocratic, because why does the party then have an NWC? Why do you have all of those people represented if they cannot present their opinions, and then democracy should have its way? But speak to this point, because it's been touted now that the president has, you know, the desire, or has put forward former governor of Kano State. But in that letter also from Mr. Lukman, he says that the former governor should be cleared of corruption charges against him before he emerges, if that's the case, the chairman of the APC. Do you agree that he brings all of that baggage on board if he becomes the chairman of your party, and it's not good for the image of the APC?
I suspect that the man is innocent until he's convicted. You cannot prevent a man from having his life because he has a baggage of you know, misconduct that is not proved at the court level.
What about the video that, I mean, we've seen? It's been in the public space.
Take it to the court.
Isn't that enough to raise questions? I mean, we've seen what happened with the CBN governor. He was suspended, or the former CBN, or suspended CBN governor. He was put aside while investigations are going on. So don't you think that we've seen that video? It's been confirmed to be authentic by the Kano State Anti-Corruption Agency. Isn't that enough?
My own view is that let him be convicted first. Don't stop the process of the court. But that should not deny him the opportunity to serve in any capacity for now.
You don't think that, you know, giving him such a significant office in the ruling party, not the opposition party, in the ruling party, you don't think it casts any aspersions at all on your party or the moral standing of the APC?
Unfortunately for us, that is the constitution of the country. You cannot be prevented from holding any position because you have, you know, a baggage to carry that is not proved at the court level.
There is another angle to that is what the same Mr. Lukman mentioned about, you know, lauding a particular individual over the NWC without passing him, that's Dr. Ganduje, through due process of the party according to the Constitution.
No, he will be presented to the NWC and you can vote him out. It is not compulsory that you must vote for him. It's a democracy. Why are you preventing him? If you have that conviction, go and convince your members not to adopt him. But you cannot say because you don't like him, then he should not be presented. Let him be presented. You lobby your contemporaries, your members, and let them vote him out.
Pardon me, if you were in a position to vote today, would you vote against the choice of the president?
I will ask him questions.
No, I'm saying if you disagree, would you publicly say, I'm voting against this person, even though it's the president choice? Can you in actual fact do that?
I've not discussed with him.
With who, the president?
No, the person being presented. It's not going to be automatic. If I have any form of reservation, I will say, okay, let him come for interview.
No, so I'm saying if you have a reservation, can you publicly vote against? Because you say you make it look like it's easy for people to vote against the choice of the president. Can you vote against the choice of the president?
If I am to vote,
yes,
I will interrogate the person.
And if you're not satisfied, would you vote against him?
I will vote against him.
And it brings me to the point that was also raised by Mr. Lukman. You know, his letter seems to be like a reference point now because we know he's an insider and he's seen a lot of things going on with the party. And he says that, you know, your party must urgently address this situation where the party becomes a dumping ground for surrogates of elected politicians. And clearly he has seen a trend, maybe from the state and now at the national level. So you have elected, you know, representatives or people in government now selecting those who would lead the affairs of the party. He believes that is essentially making the party a dumping ground. Do you agree with him on that?
I don't agree with him. I don't agree with his process. If he's convinced, let him present all these, issues to the institution that is responsible for the confirmation of the chairman of the party. Convince them so that they will not adopt him. But if you are taking it to the public is not going to vote on that day. So you are just wasting your time. Present it to the National Working Committee or the Executive Committee of your party. Convince them that these are my reservations. And then once they are convinced, they will not vote for him. But if you are taking it to the public is not voting. So you are just, to my mind, you are not doing the work of somebody that has integrity.
But he has written, in fact, I'm sure you followed the conversation. He's written to the former chairman. He's written quite extensively to the party. At some point, I'm sure he became a troublemaker within the party. And we've seen that, him being called into meetings, trying to resolve those issues. So whether or not he has written to the party, I mean, I think we have evidence regarding that. But in terms of the next chairman of your party, the emergence of your next chairman, he believes that if your party is not careful, you get into a worse situation from what it was before. But factor this point in, Senator. The North Central was holding the chairmanship position. Some would say it ended abruptly. And in the principle of fairness, equity, and justice, some say naturally that position should stick to the North Central. But the way it's going, it looks like it will go to the Northwest. Again, is that the right way to go?
The people of that constituency, they are also members of the National Working Committee or the Executive Committee. They are represented. Let them protest. Or there are members of this party from North Central that can also protest. It doesn't have to be a public matter. That's what I'm saying. It's an internal affairs of your party. You can sort it out, reasonably by communicating, by discussing. But if you put it in writing now, of what benefit is it to your party?
Senator, you make it sound like, because the way it's sounding with all these issues that we've had, not just from Mr. Lukman, but quite a number of other people, both at the federal, national level, and at state level, these issues continue to raise the question of whether or not the APC is as organized as it looks. There are those who are wondering whether or not these bottles, these portions, these pockets of crisis doesn't show the vulnerability of APC's internal workings to deal with its own issues internally.
As far as I'm concerned, party is not important for Nigeria now. There are so many issues of governance that is affecting the people. Let the party sort themselves out. How many people are members of the party in Nigeria? They are not up to 1%.
Are you telling the president to let the party sort themselves out?
No, he's a member of the party too.
So who are you telling to let the party sort themselves out?
The public.
But the public has a vested interest as well.
No,
it's the ruling party.
Let them shift their interest to governance now.
No,
because that one affects them more.
You just said that the chairman of the party usually attends meetings, at least when you were conversant with what was happening. So clearly the party is involved in governance. So why are you trying to separate that now?
I'm talking about when there are crises to solve, let the party sort it out. The public cannot sort it out for them. Let the people talk about governance now, which is more important than party wrangling.
Charity.
As far as I'm concerned, party is not relevant as we are putting it in a presidential system.
But it is. The flag bearer came from the party.
Yes.
In fact, people voted for the party when they went to the ballot. But even at the basis, charity, they say, begins at home. You don't expect a government that cannot handle internal party affairs to be able to handle a much complex nation like Nigeria.
No. There are two different things. There are too many contradictions, bad minds, mudslinging in the political party that most people should not even go there.
What do you think is responsible for that? All of that mudslinging.
I don't know. There are too many intrictions, too many, infighting, vested interest which you will not even see going on. Caucuses, discussion, overnight caucuses, backsliding, mudslinging to get favor. That is politics for you. But governance is different. Governance is about the people. Party is about the party members. Let's leave all those things to party members to solve. They will solve themselves out. Don't let them mix it up with governance. We have too many things to think about as a government. That we're talking about any political party now. What about Labour Party? Look at the problem they are facing. What about PDP? Look at the problem they are saving.
Are you a member of, well, okay, you were a member of the PDP side, but not the Labour Party.
No, Labour Party. Yeah, but the crisis in Labour Party is even worse.
And they're not in government.
And they're not in government.
So I'm saying that, I mean, you imagine that attention will not be on them as much as the APC.
To manage a political party is so difficult. So me, I don't bother myself. If you bother yourself about party, you will die very young. Because there are carpenters there are artisans there are not a good do well there, motorcycle people, market women. Party is a complex thing. The composition is too complex. You cannot predict them. There are too many illiterates, too many poor people that you have to manage.
Yet we continue to ask people to go into politics so that they can, take back their country, so to speak.
I don't envy them.
That's another conversation
Let them
altogether.
go and see.
Senator Adeseye Ogbulewe is a former Minister of Works. He is also a member of the Governance Advisory Council of APC in Lagos. He's a retired permanent secretary, Lagos State Civil Service. Thank you so much for your time.
It's my pleasure. Today. Thank you.
Well, your own conversation with us this morning, your own inputs to the program. Guess what we have? First, Festus Akimboyewa says it is sad that we lost as many as 103 compatriots during the 2020 ENDSARS protests. It's even more sad to politicize the unfortunate deaths. Let those who died be given a decent burial and let the dead rest. May the souls of those who died rest in peace.
Well, this one is from Abura Kenneth, says it is not shocking to hear that the attackers of these communities have ulterior motives. Nigeria is bleeding, he says. The government of Nigeria should add honesty to the weapons with which they tackle the insecurities in the entire region.
This is an email from Nonso Ozol talking about insecurity in Plateau State. It says a terrorist attack in Owo is connected to the attacks in Plateau State. If the DSS and other intelligence agencies do their part by providing intelligence to the federal government, the latter should soon have the will to act. We have rulers and public officials who have abdicated their responsibilities to the people.
And then we have this one, an email again from Adekbojo Adeyinka. He says, please, I would like to focus on waste management in Lagos. Is Loma dead? What is the state government doing about it? Everywhere is stinking, from Egbeda to Iba, Papa, Oshodi, Expressway, and others. Fear of an epidemic is on the table. Adekbojo Adeyinka sent that in.
Well, I know that they just recently changed the head of Loma. It certainly has his work cut out for him, and he was appointed by somebody. So even if the head of Loma isn't doing his work, the person who appointed him should take
hit the ground running. But we have to hit the ground running. Wish you a beautiful rest of the day, and thank you for letting us be a part of your morning. I'm Nelta Igbe.
Really appreciate your feedback. Thank you for sending them in. I'm Malkwell Gwin Yusuf.
I'm Kayode Okichelu.
And I'm Ayo Makide. Have a wonderful week ahead.
Hi, I'm Pato Rankin, and they don't call me world best for no reason. I only deal with the best. Be it auto or business, 100% claim is always guaranteed.